Are we go? Are we go? Are we go? Are we go? Systems go. Hi, I'm Jeremy. It's a Classic Guitar Rock daily update. News and comment. So it's not just news, there's also comment. Here's another thing. If you follow us on X, our profile says we celebrate the great music and pop culture of the 60s, 70s, and 80s, right? I mean, the name is Classic Guitar Rock. And to be honest, when we started in 2014, 13, I think I started with a blog called Classic Guitar Rock, and it was focused mostly on guitar stuff. But over the years, it's expanded the mission. We call that mission creep, right? When your mission kind of expands. We don't really call it mission creep because technically that's when your mission creeps and you didn't mean it to. Sorry, I digress. So we talk obviously about the guitar-driven rock of the 60s, 70s, and 80s, but we also talk about the cool pop culture things as well. So I just want to clarify because sometimes I'll post like on the X Twitter page a couple days ago, I posted someone from a sitcom in the 70s and someone said, what's that got to do with classic rock? And I said, dude, read the profile. Okay. We talk about pop culture too. If you're a Gen Xer, you need to be following us wherever, right? Facebook, YouTube, on X. We have a lot of fun on X. We're approaching almost 51,000 followers. So we have a lot of fun. I'm a little biased, right? But we have a lot of fun. You should join us. So let's jump to the news and comment for today. That's why we're all here. Judas Priest, the Ripper. Sorry, I'm not in my Rob Halford form. I'm still under the weather. Judas Priest will launch a tour in the spring in support of their upcoming album, Invincible Shield. The run will start a little more than a month after the release of the new LP on March 8th. April 18th is when it will start in Wallingford, Connecticut. It's currently scheduled through May 22nd in Syracuse, New York, but I'm sure that more dates will be added, and they're kind of going all over. Have you heard Panic Attack? That's the new release from the new album, Invincible Shield. I kind of like it. Judas Priest fans often want to fight me in the parking lot because of what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it. Judas Priest jumped the shark after Defenders. Sorry. I know some people love Painkiller. They love, Ram It Down. Sorry. They lost me after Defenders. But I was a huge Priest fan. And what's my point? I don't mean to be nitpicking or be whining, but this new track, Panic Attack, I kind of liked it. And you know what? Their album, Firepower, is not bad, actually. It's not bad. But there was a stretch of stuff where they just, can we let up on the double bass drums? I don't want that in every song. Okay. Sorry. I don't want that. Don't get me going on so many. I don't want that. I want good drums. I want space. I mean, a cool double bass fill is cool every now and then, but when every song sounds like a jackhammer, starting to sound like my parents. Sorry. Oh, by the way, they're dropping a new single on Friday. It's called Trial by Fire. So on Friday, check that out. Sammy Hagar. We talked about Sammy, was it last week or the week before, in the context of him being kind of perplexed that there hasn't been some kind of tribute done for Eddie. Eddie's been gone almost 3 years. Nothing's been said. Nothing's been done about a tribute tour or show or whatever. I threw out my opinion. Excuse me. Alex, right? That's the reason nothing has happened. Nothing against Alex. Alex is the one that's kind of in the driver's seat and all that. And until Alex wants to do something, nothing will happen. Now, Sammy didn't say this specifically, but I have to think part of this is kind of his way of doing a tribute to Eddie. I'm assuming. He has recruited guitarist and former Chickenfoot bandmate Joe Satriani to join him on a Van Halen-focused 2024 tour. Sammy's Circle bandmates, bassist Michael Anthony and drummer Jason Bonham will round out the lineup. So Vic is not going. Vic is the normal guitarist for the Circle. They should have Vic's great. They should have Vic and Joe. Whatever. It doesn't say that Vic will be along for the ride. He's dubbing it the Best of All Worlds Tour. It will launch July 13th in West Palm Beach, Florida, and conclude on August 31st in St. Louis. Loverboy will open for them. Let me say this about Loverboy. Yeah, we think they're a pop band and all of that. I have, and it's just kind of happened this way. I mean, I was always a Loverboy fan. I wasn't a huge Loverboy fan, but I have seen them live like 8 times. And most of those have been in the last 20 years, right? They still sound great. They look terrible. They sound great. If you get a chance to go see Loverboy, go see him. Because, man, Paul Dean, one of the unsung guitar greats of the 80s. The dude can play. Mike Reno can still sing. He doesn't look like he did in 1984, but he can still sing, and the band sounds really good. They'll be opening for Sammy on this. This would be cool. This would be a great show. Sammy says, quote, "We're going to go deep into the Van Halen catalog." He told Howard Stern on Tuesday, "If you're going to go deep into the Van Halen catalog, you need Joe Satriani." Hagar noted that he and Anthony typically play 5 or 6 Van Halen songs on the road with the Circle. This time, he'll flip the script and play 5 or 6 of his own songs, and the rest will all be Van Halen classics and deep cuts. When we go out next year in July, it will be almost exactly 20 years since Mike and I did a reunion with Ed and Al in 2004, Hagar said. Mike and I just said, we can't wait another 20 years. How long can I even sing these songs? How long can I do this stuff? I just thought it's time to serve the fans. And he said that while he was working on the Collection 2, the Van Halen box set, it inspired him to put this tour together. He also named Seventh Seal and Amsterdam as deep cuts he'd be excited to unearth. Joe says, learning the Van Halen catalog is a Herculean task, but he's up to the challenge. Quote, "There are things that are so iconic you have to nail it," he said. But if you go deep with what he did live, he's talking about Eddie here, he never played the same thing twice. He kept evolving. He kept pushing. He'd do the recorded version a little, but then he moved on. It's a daunting task when you do the deep dive into what he did, but it's good to start at the beginning, and then you just learn all his little improvs, and you get the idea of what he was trying to do. It's thrilling. It's fun. And Joe will do it justice. So if you get a chance to see that show, Sammy doing Van Halen with Loverboy opening, what's not to like? Okay, this is creepy. This makes me mad when I see stories like this. Nikki Sixx revealed that the FBI is currently investigating a stalker who has targeted his family, and that it's not the first time he's dealt with such an issue. As you can imagine, public figures, especially someone in the music world, celebrity, we've seen this, actors and actresses over the years that have been stalked, and tragically, John Lennon. There are whack jobs out there that are whack jobs. They're not safe, and they start stalking people, and that is really scary and really creepy. Nikki says, like many other public figures, myself and my family were harassed and threatened by a stalker. He wrote, a deranged woman from Tennessee who I have never met or seen before targeted my wife and child with threats of death and bodily harm. This was not some internet troll, but someone who was convinced that she was somehow connected to me. He explained that as the woman's behavior grew progressively more scary, he had to go to court several times and obtain restraining orders, which she repeatedly violated. She was ultimately held in contempt of court and arrested as a result. And now Nikki says another stalker from a different part of the country started doing the same thing, going so far as to travel to my house and threaten our lives again. The FBI is currently investigating. Quote, "It's one thing to threaten my safety, but when it comes to serious threats against my wife and children, it just becomes beyond alarming. They do not deserve this. Thank you to the FBI, law enforcement, the detectives, and the legal and court system for treating these threats with the severity and urgency they require." In conclusion, Nikki says, "I will go to any lengths to protect my family." So no one should have to put up with that kind of crap. Okay. Doesn't matter if someone's famous. That's just creepy. It's creepy. Makes me mad when I see stories about that. So we wish Nikki and his family the best in this situation. Just creepy. Not cool. Not cool. Lastly, Jack Russell of Great White and Tracy Guns of LA Guns fame are marking the beginning of a fresh artistic partnership with a new album, an upcoming studio album called Medusa, which will be released January 12th from Frontiers Music. We've talked about Frontiers a lot. To kick off the announcement is the first single, Next in Line, which showcases Jack's stellar vocals and Tracy's always clear and catchy riffs. And it's the first shot at showing just what a powerhouse Russell Guns, that's what they're calling the group, Russell Guns is to contemporary hard rock. Commenting on the partnership, Tracy Guns said, "Jack is one of the greatest rock voices of our generation. It's a total honor to play guitar on this record." Guys, Jack Russell can still flat out sing. Okay, guy's got a great voice, still sounds really good, and Tracy can still shred. I mean, I think this would be a fun album. I'll definitely be checking it out. All right, our album today. This, there are certain albums. It's all subjective, right? It's all subjective. Music is subjective, but there is typically a body of work that is considered classics, right? That a classic rock collection, you really should be rooted in the classics, right? You talk about albums like Dark Side of the Moon, maybe Led Zeppelin 2, right? Or Physical Graffiti, whatever. There's you could pick out 20, 30 albums that if you're consider yourself a real classic rock, not just a fan, but maybe an uber fan or an aficionado, you need to have these albums in your collection. That's just even if you're not wild about it, you need to have a grounding in the classics, right? Here's one of these albums. There are, in my mind, 2 Jeff Beck albums. This is, again, subjective. To me, my 2 favorite Jeff Beck albums. I'm sharing this one because I don't have the other one on vinyl. I just have it on CD and cassette. Originally, I had it on cassette. But this album and Wired, you got to have them. You got to have them. Jeff Beck, recognized by many guitarists. Now, not the public, right? If you were polling the public, Jeff Beck would probably not be in the top 5 guitarists. But if you're polling other guitarists, he's at the top of almost everybody's list. And the reason why is, pick a decade, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. He never stopped innovating. He never stopped. He never was in a rut. And to be honest, that's why he never had the commercial success that other guys did. He was, I use this word a lot, mercurial, meaning that he wasn't necessarily always the easiest guy to work with. Talk to Rod Stewart about that, right? Jeff would get tired of a project and he'd quit. I don't want to do this tour anymore, right? But he's a genius. Okay. When you listen to the nuances, when you go deep and listen to what Jeff Beck was doing, you begin to notice his influence in a lot of other players. You go, oh, that Gary Moore album that I like so much, there's a lot of Jeff Beck on that. Okay. And just check out the interviews of other art, Joe Bonamassa, Eric Clapton. You talk to other guitar players. Jeff Beck is the dude, right? If you're going to start with one Jeff Beck album, this one or Wired, probably most people would tell you this one is the one to start with. Wired, another great one. This, I think, was 75. Yeah, no, this is 70. Yeah, 75. I think Wired was in 76. So there's a pair there that are friggin' phenomenal. Gotta have it. The band is Jeff Beck, Max Middleton on drums, Phil Chin on bass, Richard Bailey on drums and percussion. It's an awesome record. Okay, you notice on this era, he's still playing a Les Paul, and then on Wired, he's playing a Strat. But the early days was mostly a Les Paul. He gets sounds to come out of his guitar that aren't in my guitar. I don't know how he does it, but Jeff Beck's Blow by Blow, that's my recommendation for today. You should have it in your collection. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for all your support. I really mean it. I appreciate you listening to the podcast. I appreciate you following us on YouTube, on Facebook, and here on X. It means a lot. Thanks so much. We'll see you tomorrow for our next daily update. Live long and prosper. Bye-bye.